Last night, President Joe Biden lied to the American people. Now, you could argue that technically he did not lie, as Ian brought up on the show, Timcast IRL, because what President Joe Biden said was, I never thought that I would see, confirm children being beheaded, etc., etc. Now, of course, the implication is that he did see it, and that's what you would assume in a colloquial context when someone says, never thought I'd see a dog do a backflip. You say that after you see a dog do a backflip. In this instance, Joe Biden made it seem like he did see them. Okay, well, that was the assumption. That's why I say he's lying, because now the White House is walking back Biden's claim that he saw photographic evidence of beheaded children. That being said, there is substantial evidence of atrocities. There are videos of civilians being killed. And so based on this, and several other reports, we now have reporting from CBS, more reporting from CBS, mind you, that, yeah, they saw this. I lean towards there is a strong possibility that it is true. Emotional arguments mean nothing to me. There are a lot of people right now that are, Piers Morgan's got a tweet out. There's another guy's got a tweet out saying, you know, how dare you ask for evidence? You know, we used to just say killing children was wrong. And it's just like, what? Shut up. I'm not here to play stupid games with morons. I don't care what you have to say about other people, but I will say this for my show, for this show, for Timcast IRL. The idea that because you've asked for evidence of children being beheaded means you don't care that children died is laughably absurd and weakens your position. But that seems to be what's happening right now. But this is a big story. And because of the Nayirah testimony in 1990, where a young woman lied about children being ripped from incubators and killed, there are questions about whether or not we are being lied to, and we have a right to ask for evidence. Again, that being said, where it stands on the evidence, it's tough. Welcome to war, my friends. Fog of war is a bitch. You're going to get manipulations, propaganda, lies from everyone involved in a conflict. However, I'm sorry. When pro-Palestinian activists cheer for the killing of civilians, when journalists covering this extensively say Hamas targets civilians, and when I watch videos of Hamas killing civilians, and then someone says there are also babies found decapitated, I'm like, they don't need that story, guys. And that's the thing. While I certainly don't like the emotional manipulation and the lies from the White House, Israel doesn't need this story to justify anything. If they want to say atrocities are committed, they need only be like, here's a video of civilians being killed. And it's like, damn, dude. So when they come out and say that there were children killed in their cribs, decapitated, I mean, this is brutal stuff. I'm not in the mood, man. I mean, yeah, we're going to get demonetized on this one, but this is serious stuff. You don't need to come out with the emotional arguments, guys. Okay. I think anybody rejecting what we saw in these videos and what Hamas did is clearly an ideologue and hyper-partisan. We had someone super chat us on IRL yesterday saying, you're hypocrites. You know, Israel chips and nail and you're here crying crocodile tears. I'm like, chips and nail? Admitted that they came in and killed civilians, chipping and nail. Okay. And this is what I said last night. If your argument that civilians being killed and run down, murdered, and civilians in their homes, non-combatants being killed is chipping a nail, you expect me to cry over what's happening with collateral damage in Gaza. Ideologues, not interested. This is what I see. We've got people who are pro-Israel saying, you know, how dare you question the narrative of children being beheaded or whatever. And I'm like, shut up, dude. I'm upset about what happened. And it's an atrocity. And there's atrocities that happen all over the world, mind you. But this one's bad. Watching civilians be run down, killed, these women crying, being paraded through the streets. Some of these videos, man, they're just brutal. The broken bones. I mean, it's graphic. It's horrifying. I'm not here to entertain ideologues who are trying to emotionally goad me into supporting a war. And more importantly, especially when you don't have to. You do not need to make these emotional arguments when we can clearly see the videos of what Hamas did, and it's horrifying. It's disgusting. It is terrorism. Here's the story from Insider, and then we'll break down the current reporting on what's going on with this claim. The White House is walking back Biden's statement that he saw photographic evidence of beheaded children. Now, I want to stress this point as well. Biden's claim being debunked has moral outrage on the other side, the pro-Palestine side, saying, see, the story's debunked. You know what, man? I don't care for your emotional arguments. And all you do with your stupid manipulation is piss me off. What is debunked is that Joe Biden claimed he saw evidence. The White House has walked that back. You want to call that debunking? Fine. Maybe the White House is lying. Maybe Biden's lying. Pick one. But either way, the story has no credibility because there's no evidence. I mean, Joe Biden's claim has no credibility because he made a claim that was contradicted. So we just ignore it. This doesn't mean children weren't killed. No. So the people who are coming out and being like, see, the story was already debunked. No, it wasn't. Joe Biden's lie was debunked. Here's the story. President Joe Biden addressed Jewish community leaders at a roundtable on Wednesday, where he referenced a gruesome claim made by the Israeli Defense Force. It was also made by humanitarian first responders, CBS reports. So take that for what you will. It matters that Americans see what is happening, Biden said. I have been doing this a long time. I never thought that I would see and have confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children. He lied. Later in the evening on Wednesday, a national security official told NPR that Biden was referring to media reports when he made the remark. CNN reported Wednesday that a White House official said that neither Biden nor the administration had seen these images and that Biden was referring to comments from Israeli officials and reports in the media. Now, I wonder why they would even bother doing that, because they can make the claim. That's it. They can just say it. How are you ever going to prove it? No one's going to publish photos like this, right? But they're walking it back. The gruesome claim, they say. A journalist with Israeli broadcaster I-24 News on Tuesday was the first to claim that babies had been killed in the Israeli kibbutz Kfar Aza, initially saying 40 babies at least were taken out on gurneys. The journalist Nicole Zedek later clarified the statement, saying soldiers told me they believed 40 babies and children were killed. Later on Tuesday, IDF spokesman Major Nir Dinar told his insider that Israel soldiers came across the bodies of babies, including some that had been decapitated, and the Kfar Aza kibbutz near the Kfar Aza kibbutz. Dinar said the IDF cannot confirm any numbers, but described the situation at the kibbutz as a massacre in which children were brutally butchered in an ISIS way of action. Insider has not been able to independently verify these claims. Well, of course, no one's going to be able to. It's war. Let me ask you, do you really believe that they're going to film and take photos of dead babies and post them on the internet? I'm not surprised they won't do that. So here's what I think. I think that there is a decent probability it's a lie, an exaggeration, and it's propaganda. I think the probability, the greater probability, greater than chance, is that these soldiers did come across dead children. What we saw from Hamas, they were opening fire into buildings. These buildings are heavily damaged. There's cars that are shot up. There's a video of Hamas just killing civilians. Just go. I mean, look, man. So when I see that, I would say the preponderance of evidence suggests Hamas indiscriminately was opening fire on civilians. And guess what? Yeah, babies in their houses are going to be hit by this gunfire. Now, the question is, as to these claims, was it a ritualistic ISIS-style beheading? Or, assuming it's true, did the soldiers just happen to come across babies who had been mutilated beyond recognition because of the gunfire? Look, I'm sorry for talking about something so serious, but I will also add, I find it personally offensive that YouTube flags videos like this. Now, I get demonetization. If I was selling coffee, I maybe wouldn't want to put it next to a story about dead babies. I get it. But these stories need to be heard. People need to understand what war is, because this is how you get people to say, hey, we don't want war and conflict. Because here's the sad truth. There are many people who are right now saying, see, Biden lied, it's debunked. One day, when war comes to their doorsteps, we pray it doesn't, and they walk into a room and they see a crib spattered with blood, heaven forbid they have to go and tell the people of the world what they saw and have everyone insult and mock them. What a horrifying situation. I'm sorry, man. If you come to me and tell me that children were killed in the conflict, I'm going to be like, yeah, of course. Look at these videos, man. A lot of this stuff that Hamas was doing was like indiscriminate and aimless. They're just opening fire. There's going to be collateral damage. I don't know if there's intentional, but I got to tell you, people are asking whether, like, why would they do this? What's the benefit? They claim it's an open air prison. These people chant from the river to the sea. They are saying the entirety of what Israel is should be wiped out, should be reclaimed by them. They should be in charge. Ideological. So when there are stories of rapes and children being killed, yeah, when you have tribal warfare, that's what happens. These people, they want to inflict humiliation, and that's what they do. There's a story I hear. It's apocryphal, but people tell this urban legend of an American general who had killed a bunch of al-Qaeda terrorists or mujahideen or whatever. It's not a true story, I don't believe. They say that after a battle and a bunch of the Muslim soldiers were killed, the general left one soldier alive, or one terrorist, whatever you want to call them. It's the mujahideen. It's an apocryphal story, so it's like, I don't know, whatever. This one individual was left alive to watch as the general spilled pig's blood onto the corpses of these men. And then they released him. The argument being that this man would then go and tell them what happened, and they'd be too scared to fight because now they're unclean and they couldn't go to heaven or something to that effect. The story is not true. But the general idea is that a moral outrage would be committed to shock the other side into cowering. Now, I don't know how to tell you, man. When it comes to a story like this, all this is going to do is spur Israel into action and rally the international community. But you don't need this story about babies to make that happen. The fact that we all watched civilians be targeted and that the left cheered for it and that people celebrated and Black Lives Matter celebrated, it's enough, man. We're outraged. It's evil. It is evil. And then you get these people being like, they're just trying to return to their homes. No, they went and killed civilians. That's not returning to your homes. This is the way I described it last night. You say someone's locked in a prison and they're innocent and they were forced in there by an oppressive force. And we say, okay, like, I'm someone who has no idea what's going on. I'm like, that poor person locked up in prison. Hey, if they're innocent, I want to get them out. One day, the person breaks through the outer fencing, runs full speed right up to a young woman and just mercilessly beats her to death. And then I'm just like, that person probably should be in prison, right? Now, the challenge is we're not talking about a single person. We're talking about 2.5 million people. People who are born in Gaza who don't know anything else. This is a problem. War and conflict will not stop so long as this is the case, but I'm not going to pretend to have the solutions. I can tell you that when you claim these poor people just want to return to their land and then Hamas breaks out and just murders civilians, I'll be like, bro, I don't know what to tell you. I talk to these people who are pro-Palestine. They lie. Not all of them, but many of them. Oh, but Israel's doing this. Like the person I mentioned, the super chat who said Israel chips a nail and you're crying, crocodile tears. Like, disgusting. I'm just, your lies don't work on me, dude. Okay. It's war. I get it. There's collateral damage. Civilians die in Gaza. The West Bank is the Palestinian territories are basically disintegrating in the West Bank. I get that there's war. Just because Israel has the power doesn't make them inherently evil. If two ideological factions are at odds with each other and one has said we're going to kill civilians as a principal tactic, and the other side, at the very least, is trying to maintain the image, we will try to avoid civilian casualties, you lose. Have a nice day. You're out. And they'll be like, yeah, but Israel's lying. Perhaps, but at least they're not the ones going around and parading and cheering for killing civilians. You see where you lose on this one? I think what we saw from Hamas, it destroys that moral position, that they're just innocent. You know, they're people who are refugees and trying to get their homeland back. It's like, no, dude, you're at war. Okay. You'll get no sympathies from me. From the Daily Mail, Israeli military says babies were beheaded, and a coroner has confirmed how they died as IDF post images of ISIS flags left at kibbutz by Hamas terrorists. This I don't believe. Like, come on, man. I don't know what to tell you. I'm less likely to believe that Hamas threw an ISIS flag there, okay? But what I will say is this. If the left comes out and says these people are born into refugee camps, traumatized and raised to despise Israel and want the return of Palestine and all of that stuff, you can't control these people, okay? If Hamas fighters break out and paraglide into a kibbutz, and then they say, why would they do this? Why would they do that? Well, because they're undisciplined, angry, traumatized, violent individuals. Why does Antifa try to kill people? Why did that dude in Portland get shot twice in the chest? You'd say, for what purpose? Because they're insane. Because they are angry, ideologically driven individuals, violent individuals. We've heard these stories about the U.S. military, that U.S. soldiers committed rapes and killed civilians and all that stuff. You know, if we're going to hear those stories from the left, I'm going to believe that Hamas would do something similar. Could it be that a single Hamas fighter was so angry and hates Jews so much that he killed these babies and killed these people? Yeah, it's that simple. You ever hear the story of, like, I don't know, Jeffrey Dahmer? That's one American guy, a civilian, who killed and murdered and did a bunch of horrible other things. Gacy, serial killers exist. You want to make the argument that, like, Hamas sanctioned this doing, like, well, you know, I can believe you if you said that they were trying to get a military target, but we know that they target civilians because they admit it. But is it possible that one soldier committed these atrocities because Hamas empowered them to do so? Sure. It's believable, man. I'm sorry. It just is. We do have this, because I always want to make sure that we are fair and balanced. Israeli official says government cannot confirm babies were beheaded in Hamas attack. CNN, interestingly, says that this is what they've got so far, despite the fact that a spokeswoman for the prime minister says, yeah, it was. I want you to see these two tweets. And the reason the images are all blurred is I'm using an extension, because some of these I won't show the images. You can find them yourself. Piers Morgan says, there's a debate raging about whether Hamas beheaded babies or stabbed and shot them in their bedrooms, as if somehow one of these evil, depraved acts of terror is less wicked than the other. If you're trying to argue this point, you're a sick bastard. That's a lie. Piers Morgan's a liar. The debate right now is not whether or not they were shot or beheaded. You see, what he's trying to do is shift the narrative to say explicitly children were killed. Well, I get it. I've seen some photos that provide circumstantial evidence. Well, I would say actually direct physical evidence. There's photos of cribs and children's playrooms spattered with blood. It's not proof, it is evidence. Proof would be like a video of a kid screaming and crying and someone walking in holding up, the date is this and here's what I'm doing. That's proof positive. In this instance, we've seen a lot of evidence to suggest it's probably true. It's not a debate about whether or not babies were beheaded or shot. It's a debate about whether or not this claim is true. This is a tweet from Seth Frantzman. He says, it's weird how so many in the West have latched onto this debate about were kids beheaded. For some reason, a lot of people in the West don't find murdering children to be a problem. They need to debate. Were they beheaded? As if murdering kids is okay. The discussion is odd. You see, these are emotional lies. I'm not going to be goaded into your lies. Sorry, dude. It's just a lie. He says there was a time when murdering kids was unacceptable. You see, this is the game they're playing. They make an extraordinary claim and then they walk it back slightly. Children beheaded. No, but children were killed. How dare you question how they died? People are questioning whether they died at all, right? We want evidence to extraordinary claims. That being said, there is evidence. And I believe Hamas has more than proven they're willing to kill children when they open fire indiscriminately into civilian targets. And then even the left cheers for it. They fire rockets at Tel Aviv, dude. They fire rockets at civilian targets. Like, this is not beyond what Hamas would do. My point only here is your emotional arguments only piss me off. And you know what? And I'll call them out. Now, the bigger question is, should the U.S. be involved? My answer is no. And that's tough. They tug at your heartstrings. Look what happened to these kids, man. You're going to sit back and do nothing? Bro, we're not the world police. I think it's just an absurd notion that the United States, the liberal economic order, Europe, we have to be some kind of world police where we go and decide a problem was committed and then we're going to police other countries. And the reason for this, and the best argument, Cassandra Fairbanks makes this argument, no one cares about other countries. It is usually only the countries that align with U.S. interests and U.S. military needs where all of a sudden there's a moral outrage. Is this a moral outrage? These are atrocities. There's video evidence and admission by Hamas they've committed atrocities. China's committing atrocities. You can make the argument that we don't have the means to stop China. That would be full-scale war, World War III. Fine. The Uyghur Muslims are suffering and being raped and there's forced abortions. It's horrifying. And that we do have more means to assist Israel in what's going on right here. But I disagree. Getting involved in this conflict directly with boots on the ground or otherwise means war with Iran. And people need to understand Iran is not Iraq and Afghanistan. There's a reason why we set up military bases in Iraq and Afghanistan surrounding Iran to try and control the region, because Iran is powerful. Are they the most powerful? No, of course not. But it is not like Afghanistan. Iran is a developed, large, mountainous nation, and it will be extremely difficult for the U.S. to try and conquer a nation like that. That's what they want. The U.S. for a long time has wanted war with Iran. Now, were we to just jump into involvement with Israel over Palestine, considering Israel is now leveling much of Gaza, yeah, we could be entering World War III directly, and that's a bad idea. You know, look, man, there's a reason why I'm not running for office, and I'm not going to be calling for war or intervention. There's a reason why I say, like, I don't know. I don't know. Because I cannot, in good faith, lead people to oblivion, to World War III, to their own destruction. But I understand this. The reason why I say I'm usually like 90, 95 anti-intervention is because I'm not so naive to think that there can be a perfect world where we do nothing. I understand that China and Russia would seek to gain international power, and the last thing any of us want is to live under a unipolar Chinese communist world. And that means we are in competition for resources, territory, economic authority. But the way I often play the video game Civilization is that we become the most prosperous, the strongest, and we don't need to engage in war. In the game Civilization, which is a, poor simulation of real life, conflict and consequences, but it's a good game. They try their best, and in the game you build a civilization, you build little cities, time advances, you develop technology. My playthroughs are always I'm the most advanced with the biggest military, and I'm not at war with anybody. Through trade, through economics, and through military might, not through intervention, people negotiate and trade, and there is peace. I've never played these games where when a war breaks out, I'm like, all right, I'm deploying my military to go make them stop. I'm like, no, I mind my own business. But there is a scary reality, my friends. And that reality is that there are nuclear powers in this world that if they go to war with each other, we suffer. The whole world does. Imagine if, China went to war with, India. And then nukes start flying. It's world war no matter what you want to do. And we're involved no matter what. That's the harsh reality. And that's why we want war to stop. Don't have the answers for you, my friends. I just don't. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.